Well, welcome everyone. I'm Andrea O'Sullivan. I'm Executive Director here at PPG, and I will let Deja introduce herself too.
Hi everyone, I'm Deja James. I'm Media Communications Lead here with PPG.
And we're here today to give an overview of our community agenda process. This is really the core of PPG's work. We're going to talk through it all, how partners come together and democratically weigh in on what issues we should all be working on together in the year ahead. So it's great to see everyone. We added this info session into the process a few years ago with the idea that new partners or new staff and our longtime partners could learn more about the process and get new organizations involved. Um, if you want to go ahead to the next slide, Deja, we can jump right in. So just for folks, I see some familiar names and faces and some that aren't on here, which is wonderful. So if you haven't worked directly with us before, Partnership for the Public Good, we are a community-based think tank that works toward a more just, equitable, and culturally vibrant Buffalo Niagara. And we do that through research, policy development, and civic engagement together. We're actually now a network of 380 community partners, and that's everything from block clubs to health agencies, theater companies, legal services organizations, environmental groups, social justice groups. And often during the year, it's through the community agenda process that those really diverse groups from different neighborhoods, different towns across Erie County come together and focus on key issue areas. So the really zoomed out look at our annual community agenda process is that coming right up, partners are invited to submit what we call planks. What is the idea for policy change that you and a group of folks, a group of organizations would like to see at the city of Buffalo, the Erie County, or the New York State level? Only PPG partners can submit what we call planks. It's free to become a PPG partner. We did advertise this session more broadly than our partner list. So if you're part of a community group that is not yet a PPG partner, we can talk about how to do that at the end as well if you're interested too. We then have a couple agenda committee meetings, and each partner that submits a plank or a policy change priority has to attend at least one of these agenda committee meetings to share and discuss your draft idea for policy change. You'll get feedback from other partners. These are really great sessions because we ask you in the plank proposal form to talk about how would this change affect Buffalo Niagara? Who are the, priority folks you would need to get on board with it? And you can get really good feedback from partners about that. Of course, some years we may also have, three different proposals on affordable housing or two different proposals on police reform. And through these committees, those groups can find each other and give each other feedback and see, do they want to combine? Is there something they want to work on in common? So really refining and dialoguing with each other at those committees is an important part of the process too. And then you'll go back and refine your ideas. And ultimately, we then hold a voting event, usually in December, where all of our partners are invited to come together and they each get to cast votes to pick the top 10 planks or policy change priorities for the next year. And that is what it forms the community agenda.
Yeah, so as Andrea said, it's a kind of a long process that we do into the fall, and this is the start of our season here. So right now we're doing the kind of intro of what is the community agenda so that new partners or even partners that have been partners for a long time but never pitched on the agenda, or even those who have pitched on the agenda get kind of a bird's eye view of what our timeline is. So the timeline of what Andrea just overviewed is that from now through October, November, partners are going to be brainstorming all of your ideas. We're going to have the workshops that Andrea mentioned for you to be able to refine your ideas. And then the final pitches are due in November. So there's an initial October draft proposal that's due. Then in November, a final is due. December, we vote. January, for those that get on the community agenda, we begin with a workshop, just a grounding workshop of advocacy, policy advocacy 101 for all groups that are on the agenda, to learn the base level skills that are necessary to get through your plank for the rest of the year. And we encourage veteran planks and partners to come so that they can share their expertise, and make sure that we're kind of having a co-learning environment. And then we have a community agenda rollout where we have a really public, with media, press, some elected officials talking about what the community's agenda is, for the year based on the plank process. And so the important dates of this fall process really is that we're having the overview today, September 10th, and then the draft planks are going to be due October 10th, Friday, October 10th by the end of the day. And those are going to be submitted to our colleague Regine Danga, at her email that's listed here. And don't worry about having to scribble all these dates down. We're going to be sending you all this information after this. And we're going to be sending this information to the partner list as well. We actually did send the proposal forms yesterday, I believe. Our colleague Sarah sent those out. So they are public now. You can start filling out the form. So the draft is due Friday, October 10th. Then we're going to have the agenda committees on Tuesday, October 21st and Thursday, October 23rd. And that's where you're refining those pitches. And to be clear, you only have to attend one of those. We just wanted to have two options available for people that may not be able to make one day or one time versus another. So we tried to do a morning one and an afternoonish one. So one of those you can attend to refine your pitches, and then the final are due November 7th, Friday, November 7th, once again by the end of the day, and those are going to go to our colleague Regine Danga at her email address listed there. The vote will be Thursday, December 4th. That's where you're going to be actually doing your 2-minute pitches, and we're really strict about keeping it to 2 minutes. We have a timer, and so it really is rapid fire because some years we get as many as 20 planks that have to go in a short amount of time. So it's really important we stay to 2 minutes and we have enough time for partners and all of you all to weigh in and vote on what you would like to see on the agenda. Then Friday, January 9th will be the 101. And then that's in preparation of the 16th for the public announcement of what the community agenda is going to be. So that's just kind of a bird's eye view of those dates. We just wanted to make sure we went over that here, but once again, we're going to be sending that out multiple times between now and some of the due dates that are listed here. So no worries if you can't remember all these dates right now.
Great. And I put a couple links in the chat while Deja was talking, just a link to our 2025 community agenda. For folks that aren't as familiar with it, you can see that as an example of the types and levels of policy changes. You can actually get on the bottom of that page an archive of all the years of community agendas. And then also just a fun little summary of our 2025 community agenda rollout event that Deja mentioned, where we really launch the priorities to the media and to elected officials. So you can look at what that's like too. So if you haven't received it yet, you can let us know. You can sign up to be a PPG partner still, but we have just sent around the call for planks for this year. And it's a simple form that will ask you to flesh out the things on this slide. So crafting your plank. We want to see a specific policy change. So we ask you to name what government entity, is it the county legislature? Is it something that the county executive needs to do? Is it the governor? Is it the city common council? So you really want to zero in on who can take the action that you're looking to get through. So we want to see a specific policy change at a certain level of government, and also something that is achievable within a year. We ask you to talk a little bit about how is this possible within a year. So this could be passing a law, changing a department policy or program, funding a new program in the city or county budget. And again, you can see examples of these types of policy changes on the years of community agendas on our website. We ask you to tell us, how will it help Buffalo Niagara? How will it advance racial equity in our region? How are you engaging people impacted by this issue? We really find that planks are much more successful when they do have an organizing or representative component to them. And again, how can it be successful in 1 year? And we'll talk more about this as we go forward, but we really find that criteria of successful in 1 year helps us to narrow to things that are achievable. So instead of saying all housing in Erie County, all new construction must be affordable housing, right? We would zoom into saying this percent of government funded housing should be affordable, things like that. We'll talk more about that. So we then also ask you to tell us, how can PPG support this plank? Like, do you have a sense of what you need yet? And we'll talk more about that. Do you need data? Do you need research done? Or maybe you know everything you need to know about this policy change, but you really need help accessing meetings at a certain level of government. So you can kind of let us know what you know about that so far. And then name the partners who've agreed to be part of your working group. We don't accept planks from just one organization. We want to see at least 2 or 3 of you already in a coalition. Again, this is all about collective action and prioritizing together. And we see over the years that we're more successful on these policy changes when you're coming with at least a small group. Some of our planks are from very established coalitions that might have 10 to 30 partners in them, but others, including ones that have one, are coming from 2 to 3 partners. So all of that is good. So we're going to dig into key requirements because we really want you all to walk away from this session knowing what are we looking for, what's required, and then we'll talk a little bit about what kind of help does PPG give or not give throughout the year as well. So again, your plank should have one ask, one specific policy change. We want to achieve policy wins. We want to see tangible progress together each year. So we have to pick one policy change on one level of government. And this is something we've gotten stricter on over the years. So for example, we can accept a plank that says, make housing in Buffalo more affordable by passing inclusionary zoning. We cannot accept a plank that says, make housing in Buffalo and Erie County more affordable by passing inclusionary zoning in the city, passing new developer incentives in the county, and passing a new voucher program at the state level, right? So those are all affordable housing policies, but we really need to pick one. There was a time when we would like combine and allow planks like this, and then we would end up with like 25 policy priorities instead of 10. And if we want to have successful campaigns together, we have to keep that focus. Again, your plank should be possible within 1 year. We all want to see transformational change in our communities, so we will sometimes have partners coming with very big ideas, which we love and respect. But for this process, we want to pick what is one piece that can move us toward our collective goals that we can get to this year. So for example, we can accept a plank that says, move 10% of the Buffalo police budget into community services like youth support, job development, drug user health programs. That is still a difficult, tall order to get through in policy advocacy, but it is possible in 1 year of advocacy. Whereas if you brought us a plank that said, abolish the Buffalo Police Department and replace it with an all civilian crime prevention force, we would say that is not achievable within 1 year, particularly because there isn't an active campaign to do that. We don't have steps that we've achieved toward that. And we want to sit with you and say, let's pick one key step along the way to a big goal like that. So that's just one example. And again, your proposal should name at least 2 lead advocates for your agenda item. We want to get momentum this year. We want to have progress. So we need consistent contact people from your coalition or organization. We're asking for 2 lead advocates who will be like our main people on our list about all the steps once you get on the community agenda. So those folks will be the ones who would organize and lead a monthly coalition on your plank. If it's not part of an existing working group that already meets monthly, that's okay. But we're looking for you to pull that part together. We don't pull together the coalition meetings. You are in the lead of your own plank, so we want you to do that. We ask that the lead advocates speak to the topic at our community agenda rollout, that you help with turnout and share about the rollout to get a great crowd there as we launch the agenda in the new year. We ask that you attend at least 2 meetings with elected officials to educate them on your plank. Many leads you end up attending more than that, but these are our minimum requirements. And then a new one, which Deja will talk more about in a bit, is to attend and commit to bi-monthly 2026 Community Agenda Plank lead workshops. So we're wanting to make sure that more trainings, more skills education is happening through this process. So we're looking for you to come every couple of months for kind of a group training session together. And again, we'll hear more about that. And then we have one other new change this year, which is that we've had a lot of discussion among our team and among our partnership that we want to see new and emerging groups and advocates getting a spot on this agenda. The goals of the community agenda is to win these policy changes, but we train everybody on the agenda in who's who in local government, how does city and county government work, how do you work with the media? How do you write an op-ed? And we want to see new voices getting those skills year after year as well. So in our voting process, we're going to save one plank space on the community agenda for a group from a new advocates category. So this is going to be for a group that has not yet been on the community agenda. So you'll see on the form this year for the first time where we're going to say our goal is for our education and support to reach new groups and emerging advocates. And you will check these boxes to tell us if you want to be considered in that category. My group or organization has not had a plank on the community agenda before. And the lead contact for this plank, the lead advocate, is new. They've been doing advocacy work for 3 years or less. So that's new, where we're going to reserve that one spot in the voting process. It might be quite competitive, we'll see, but to make sure that at least one item on the agenda, it could be more with how the vote shakes out, but at least this one spot will go to a new group to the process.
Absolutely. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we can be supporting your plank as PPG and what we're going to do, including some of the new trainings that Andrea mentioned we're throwing in there this year or next year rather. But I do want to reiterate that us, allocating a spot for a new group does not mean that there's only going to be one new group allowed each year. There definitely and absolutely can be more than one group that is considered new or who are advocates for less than 3 years on the agenda. We can have multiple of those. We just want to ensure that there is at least one new plank or new group. So we just wanted to clarify that. A colleague of mine pointed that out. We wanted to make sure to clarify that. But how can PPG be supporting your plank? Why do you want to be a part of the community agenda? Well, what we do is very much throughout the year, we will help set up elected official meetings or meetings with government departments that are applicable to your plank. We try to strategize and advance your plank, figure out what next steps are needed for your campaign, as well as seek the advice and counsel of some elected staffers that we have relationships with. The other thing we do is that we can research or collect data, stories, or figure out how to best advocate your plank. We've also started doing a lot more with media advocacy as well, so we can help with media and press work, press conferences, news story placements in the Buffalo News newspaper, things of that nature. We also have workshops that go through that throughout the year. And we can also support in hosting community events, town halls, things that are encouraging civic engagement into your plank or idea. The whole idea is that we're trying to invite community into the community agenda as well. And there's no way that we can be possibly passing this advocacy without community buy-in. And so we very much like to focus on making sure that the planks have enough community outreach and awareness and education around them as well. And we also have a vast partner list. As Andrea mentioned before, we have over 380 partner organizations. Hopefully we can get some new ones from this call if you're not a partner, so that you can stay abreast of what is going on the community agenda, what events are happening, what advocacy, what lobby days are happening, are there call-ins, are there digital actions, can I be calling my elected official about something, all of those things. We want to make sure people are up to date about. And so that's what will help support your plank on if you get on the agenda. And then we also wanted to add this aspect of really training and development for plank leads, especially because we want to focus on, in giving new skills to new groups that are coming through the community agenda. And so we came up with a timeline of kind of just meeting places where we can have a co-learning environment between all plank leads. And so it starts really with that January Policy Advocacy 101 that I mentioned. That's always been a part of our community agenda. We've always had this grounding session after folks are voting on the plank to know what's expected, what does it take to have something on the community agenda? What is advocacy? And we go over things like coalition building 101. We go over things like who's who in government, do a very bird's eye view of who are the change makers and decision makers in Western New York that maybe affect you on the county level, the city level, or maybe even some state, local elected officials. And so we go through all of those things in this crash course, um, few hour training. But we realized that also we couldn't really imbue all of the different things and the skills you need through just that one training. And so we decided that we want to spread out through the rest of the year some more training. So in February, we're hoping to have an organizing 101 workshop. In April, if you didn't know, last year we started our Advocacy and Action Summit, and that's actually an event in which the whole entire public is invited to this, and where we do a lot of our trainings there. And we're hoping that people that are on the community agenda will be able to come and share what their advocacy plank is and the work that they're doing to complete that advocacy with the public, and foster more of that co-learning environment with the Buffalonians and Western New Yorkers at large. In May, we're hoping to have a media advocacy workshop to talk about how do I work with the media and social media? What are social media toolkits? What are advocacy alerts? How can I be getting people involved in the media space into my plank? And then July, usually by the summer, we're all a little wore out. And so we want to have a restoration workshop, really understanding, trauma-informed advocacy, how we can be taking care of ourselves as well as partners or community members that are involved in our planks. And then in September, we're going to have an agenda reflection workshop. How is the year going? What are some failures? What are some successes? What would we do different? And what would you like to see different from the community agenda process, or what PPG has given, or what skills you would like to see PPG give? So it's kind of going to be this reflective thing. And then in October, the 2027 community agenda process starts again, but your planks and whatever gets on the community agenda will go through till December. It's just the new process, starts again. And so some folks decide to come back if their agenda or plank item hasn't made it or been completed within that year. Some folks come back. So it's an opportunity for you to come back, pitch again, and be a part of the new process. So that's kind of a bird's eye view of that timeline.
And if you want to go back to that for 1 second, Deja, I'll just add as well, we've seen over the years how valuable the exchange between partners with planks on the agenda is, even when they're on very different issues. So maybe you're working on an environmental issue, but the two elected officials that you really need to move on it are people that folks on a housing issue or a police reform issue know a lot more about, or did a partner piece of legislation with the previous year. So that having more opportunities throughout the year for partners to share that knowledge is really a key goal of this as well. We're to finish, we just have a few more points about what does PPG not do during the year, and then examples of successful planks. So this will be quick, and then we have plenty of time for your questions and to dig back into any part of this that isn't clear yet. I said a little bit before that we cannot create or chair the plank working group for you. So we need a monthly place where this issue is getting discussed, where you have some coalition members. We want our partners to be in the lead on each issue. So we want you to organize this inner circle of residents, of supporters for this as well. We have here, you're welcome to use our office to host working group meetings if you'd like. We are just moving actually, so we're going to see how that pans out, but we are happy to help host the space, but not to organize the working group. And we can't accept planks that don't have supporting partners. You're going to need the capacity and support of a coalition. So again, we ask you to have at least 2 organizations that have agreed to be part of this, to work with you on it, to join you in elected official meetings, to share how they're experiencing issues and all of that. Some planks are part of already existing coalitions or group meetings, and that's great. But we want you to tell us if you're just starting up that you have at least 2 committed. And then we also cannot advocate for funding for a specific organization rather than an issue or need. So we can say in a plank, Erie County should allocate 500,000 in its social services budget for youth homelessness support. An issue, an area of service that's badly needed, but we can't say Erie County should re-grant 500,000 to Youth Homeless Support Incorporated, which is a made-up nonprofit, Youth Homeless Support Incorporated, for its outreach program. And part of that is it actually just wouldn't work that way. The city and county government would do a request for proposals for this kind of funding. So occasionally we've had a partner come and say, we're doing this really great program. It needs government funding, but we can't advocate for funding that directly through this process. And then we have many, many community agenda wins over the years. This is just some of them. We have won a new budget line in the Erie County budget to support foster care alumni in Erie County. Several years ago, we repealed 13 traffic fees that the Buffalo Common Council had added with the Fair Fines and Fees Coalition. We passed proactive rental inspection legislation several years ago to improve rental health in the city, the health of rental housing. With the Western New York Youth Climate Council, the city of Buffalo declared a climate emergency, pledging to consider climate impacts in each of its decisions. And then we, years before New York State legalization, had a plank to end lowest level marijuana arrests in the city of Buffalo, which were very racially disparate arrests. And we did that with Open Buffalo and other groups. So that's some. I think we have one more list of successes. Passing state land bank legislation to address abandoned housing. There have been several planks over the years of improving conditions at the Erie County Holding Center, which did get interim wins. Of course, when you look at many of these, it's not that things are all the way there, but have gotten wins along the way. Bringing complete streets legislation to the city of Buffalo to make streets better for pedestrians and cyclists, and then a landmark paid family leave policy for New York State. Sometimes we have Buffalo partners that are really acting as the Western New York arm of a state campaign, and they want to bring more attention to that in Buffalo and get more Buffalo voices into that. And state paid family leave was one of those. So we put a lot at you. I wonder, Deja, if you want to go back to one of the planks that's just like the timeline for this year. And then we would love for folks to ask questions. If you've been part of the process, you can talk about that. If something was unclear, please let us know. Any other questions, and you can either put a question in the chat or we have plenty of time. So if you want to raise a hand or unmute yourself, that's fine as well.
I guess I'm happy if there are no questions because then I made sure this presentation was very clear. But we want to just give a second for anyone, even if you have an idea that you're thinking, would this be good for the agenda or not? If there's something that you're thinking about or you're not sure if it can be done in a year, we can talk a little bit about that now. Also, if there is anything in the past that you've seen PPG work on and you're wondering what the results have been or anything like that, please feel free to ask. Oh, I think I see someone. Go ahead. Timothy? Yeah.
Would a agenda work that we could petition a platform for better communication throughout our region? Because our newspapers fall short. So many organizations are trying to get their information out, but there's not really a source for everyone to go to. Would that be something that would promote and so people know what's happening in our area and how to find the resources?
For
Communication.
this process, we're really focused on policy change. So I think, Timothy, it would depend on, are you asking the city of Buffalo should create a new communication platform? If it's more like nonprofit and community programming, we don't do that through this process, mostly
No,
just
no, no.
because,
It
yeah.
would be through the city or the county because it's so difficult for anybody who is trying to get services
Mm-hmm.
to navigate through. And we all know how hard it is to understand what their websites do.
Okay, like a centralized hub of information you're kind of thinking of?
Dumb, making it in plain English.
Okay, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
just a thought. That's all. It was just a thought.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think that that's an interesting concept. I think I think government agencies won't necessarily want to take that on, but I think that from my experience in working with them, that they usually try to rely on is it 311 for that? They're really trying to utilize that as like that centralized resource, even for government resources, because I know DSS and social services uses it for homeless referrals and other things like that also, and they're supposed to help you navigate the process. So from what I've heard, that's supposed to be that, but if you're saying a system like that isn't working, that's an interesting concept that potentially could be approached that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Michael Murphy in the chat asked, are there ways to join pre-existing coalitions if we are new to this process? And there definitely are. One great way to do that is if you want to join the agenda committees, those are open to all partners, not just the folks that are pitching this year, because we want you to come and share your feedback and your insights as well. And when you come to those, we'll have a packet of all the draft proposals for the year and who the leads are. So you could look through that and see, here's the issue I've been really wanting to work on, and then reach out and join that coalition. The same opportunity you could do when we circulate the final packet of ideas ahead of the partner vote, or come to the partner vote and talk to some of those advocates. So really, you'll be able to see everything that's getting pitched. If you come to the vote, you can meet those lead advocates, and express your interest in joining those coalitions. And the last couple years, we have added a lovely brunch after the partner vote so that when we have, 150 people from our partners out, we make sure there's that time for networking and socializing too, to join each other's groups.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to put in the chat in case we do have folks here that are not part of a partner organization, or maybe you're here with an org, but you're not actually sure if you're signed up as a PPG partner. That's our partner list where you can search all of our partners. And also there's a link right at the top to become a PPG partner if you need to do that, which again is free to join. And you are endorsing our principles, which you can find on our website. So we're saying we kind of have this collective vision for a more just and sustainable and culturally vibrant Buffalo Niagara. And that's really all it takes to join. And then as we see you come on as a new partner, we make sure you're receiving all the communications about this process. The agenda vote is closed just to partners. It's not a public event, whereas the rollout in January is an event open to the public.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate, to be a partner, you don't have to be like a nonprofit 501c3. You can be a community group, you can be a block club, You can be a group of concerned neighbors, advocates, any of those things, as long as, you know, you're kind of a small group of people, you can sign up to be a partner under whatever that entity looks like, but it doesn't have to be a formalized nonprofit or 501(c)(3). Any other questions for us about the agenda, about becoming a partner, about plugging into any of the current initiatives we're working on? Okay.
All right, well, thanks everybody so much for coming on. We will send these slides around, and as you think more about the process, feel free to reach out with other ideas for advocacy, planks you want to put together. And then there's a month from today that the first draft of plank proposals are due.